Hey there, welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr. I'm really excited for what we have cooking up on today's program. I put together my perfect Philadelphia Eagles offseason plan. The moves that Howie Roseman needs to make to get the Eagles back to being a Super Bowl contender. But first, I want to begin here. The offseason is here. It's underway for the Eagles, and our coverage, our videos have been taken off. I think a lot of people were fatigued by what transpired with the Eagles this year, and I think a lot of that had to do with knowing that the Eagles offense had a ceiling with Kevin Patullo. He's now gone, and this offseason coming up for the Eagles is pivotal, and here I got you covered on the show. We're going to bring you the latest Eagles news, rumors, and reports. We're going to give you great NFL free agency coverage. I'll be at the NFL Combine. I'll be at the Super Bowl bringing you some NFL draft content as well. Anytime there's trade buzz around the Eagles, we'll talk about that too. And we're 33 subscribers away from 143,000. So lock us in and hit that sub button. Let's start here. Good foundation as we set the table for what we're going to get into here on the show. The Eagles offseason profile. So right now, the base salary cap for all teams across the NFL is $295.5 million. That is the amount of money that teams can allocate toward their roster. But that number, I can almost guarantee you, is going to go up. Once the NFL tallies the revenue generated from the 2025 season, the NFL is going to look at these numbers and say, we made bank again. Business continues to be booming. And so I would imagine that the base salary cap is well over $300 million. And that just continues the trajectory of the business path that the NFL has been on because it's continued to go up and up and up over the last several years. The Eagles as an organization will have $20.2 million in cap space as of right now, having not made any roster moves. That is 19th in the NFL, but we know that Howie Roseman is going to make moves to open up some more cap space, I would imagine, because he's so good at that. And in the NFL draft, you look ahead to that, Philadelphia slated to have 8 picks in the 2026 NFL draft, which is happening this year in Pittsburgh in April. You look at those draft selections, some awesome draft capital for the Eagles. They can either use this at their disposal or they can use these picks in a trade. They have their own first-round pick. They have their own second-round pick. They have a third-round pick from the New York Jets. That's 68th overall from the Hassan Reddick trade. They have a projected compensatory pick in the third round. They have their own fourth. They have a projected comp pick in the fourth, a fifth from either Atlanta or San Francisco from the Niners that would be a part of the Bryce Huff trade, and then they have a projected compensatory pick in the fifth round as well. As far as my Eagles offseason needs, they obviously need to hire an offensive coordinator and get that spot right. I would also look at the Eagles rebuilding the offensive line as a big point of emphasis this offseason. We'll get more into that here in just a moment. Offensive tackle, interior offensive line. Pass rusher in need for the Eagles. Cornerback 2 alongside Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Safety, what happens with Reed Blankenship? Andrew Nakobe, been an injury-prone player in college, and then he broke his ankle against the Dallas Cowboys. Wide receiver. What happens at wide receiver 3? What happens if the Eagles trade away A.J. Brown? And then tight end, because Dallas Goedert is set to be a free agent. I have seen a lot of you talk about Jake Elliott, and a lot of you have said that kicker is a need for the Eagles going into 2026. I agree, but Jake Elliott is the second highest paid kicker in the NFL. If the Eagles were to cut bait and move off of him, they'd have to eat about $10 million. And I don't know if they're willing to do that at the kicker position. They might give Jake Elliott one last chance to get on the right path. And this year, it was the worst year of his career, and this comes after a 2024 season in which he was also rocky and then got it together for the playoffs. That extra point miss against the Niners ended up really costing Philadelphia. They lost by 4. They drove down inside the 25. If Jake Elliott didn't doink that extra point, all the Eagles would have had to do is kick a field goal to force overtime, and I would have liked the Eagles' chances to beat the Niners because they were the deeper team than San Francisco if there was the extra period played. So this year, Jake Elliott, 20 of 27, career low field goal percentage of 74.1%. He was perfect on kicks of 30 to 39 yards, 6 of 6, but he was 6 of 10 from 40 to 49 yards, and only 4 of 8 from 50 plus. He used to be automatic on some of these deep kicks. That is no longer the case, and I do wonder if the Eagles make a change at the kicker spot, but again, it would cost a lot of money. Then you flip the page to the list of the Eagles' 2026 free agents. 20 of them this year. Tight end Dallas Goedert, offensive tackle Fred Johnson, interior offensive lineman Brett Toth, quarterback Sam Howell, edge rusher Josh Uche, edge rusher Azeez Ojulari, long snapper Charley Hughlett, edge rusher Ogbo Okoronkwo, running back A.J. Dillon, linebacker Nakobe Dean, pass rusher Jaelan Phillips, tight end Grant Calcaterra, wide receiver Jahan Dotson, safety Reed Blankenship, safety Marcus Epps, punter Braden Mann, cornerback Adoree Jackson, pass rusher Brandon Graham, tight end Kylen Granson, and offensive lineman Matt Pryor. Now, coming up next, what I said that we were going to get into. My guide for what Howie Roseman has to do to perfect and ace this upcoming Eagles offseason. But I do want to tell you about this deal thanks to our friends at Fanatics. We always have deals for the legends and the real ones who watch this show. This Eagles t-shirt hoodie was $60. It is now on sale for just $42. All sizes available, but that discount lasts as supplies last. And you have to use that link in order to get $18 off on this Nike t-shirt hoodie here. It's chatsports.com/Eagles hoodie shirt. My perfect offseason plan for the Eagles. Point of emphasis number one, you have to get the offensive coordinator spot right. And you have to get this offense playing up to their level. They averaged 9.5 points per game in the second half of games this year. They had 6 games this season in which they did not score in the second half. There were 2 games in which Jalen Hurts did not complete a pass in the second half. The job of an offensive coordinator is to put his players in a position to succeed. Kevin Patullo did not do that this season. He lacked play calling feel. He lacked play calling sequencing. And outside of the opening script, he was pretty much awful. I have my 5 favorite offensive coordinator candidates. And we've talked a lot about these coordinators here on the show. Brian Daboll, former head coach of the New York Giants. Todd Monken, still currently technically employed by the Baltimore Ravens, but has been their OC the last couple of years under John Harbaugh. But with the Ravens firing Harbaugh, I would imagine that the new coach brings in his new OC. Mike McDaniel, the former head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Kevin Stefanski, the former head coach of the Cleveland Browns. And then Nathan Scheelhaase. He is the pass game coordinator for the Rams. The Eagles actually interviewed him a couple of years ago when he was a little-known assistant at Iowa State. And in speaking of Jalen Hurts, I want to see an offensive coordinator get Jalen Hurts back on track. Statistically, Hurts had a pretty good year in 2025, but a lot of these numbers were empty. And obviously, offensive coordinator continuity would be great for Hurts because this will be his 11th coordinator in the last 11 years. But I think what the Eagles have to do is get the best candidate. Hurts this season completed under 65% of his passes for 3,200 yards, 33 total touchdowns, and 6 picks with a quarterback rating of 98.5. He showed and has shown throughout his career he can play at an elite level. When he's had good coordinators, Shane Steichen, Kellen Moore, the Eagles have been to Super Bowls under both of those players. I saw a funny tweet the other day from Albert Breer, and he was talking about all the different OCs that Justin Herbert has had. And he mentioned Shane Steichen, Kellen Moore. Well, Jalen Hurts has made it to a Super Bowl with those 2 OCs. You get the offensive coordinator right, paired with this still fantastic Eagles defense. Even if they lose some players, the Eagles can get back to being a Super Bowl contender in 2026. Perfect offseason plan step number 2. Howie Roseman might need to rebuild this offensive line. And this is going to be a difficult task for Howie Roseman. And there's a couple of avenues in which he can go here. He can prioritize drafting offensive linemen high. Wouldn't surprise me if he does that. All throughout his Eagles tenure, he has put an emphasis on drafting offensive linemen high in the draft. There's also some internal moves that you can make. Landon Dickerson played center while at Alabama. Do you move Landon Dickerson from left guard to center and trade Cam Jurgens to a center-needy team for, let's say, a mid-round pick. You could also, this is a little bit risky, rely on getting healthier along the offensive line. Cam Jurgens not healthy this year. Lane Johnson not healthy this year. Landon Dickerson not healthy this season. And develop some of your young players who you drafted last year. Drew Kendall, Cam Williams, Myles Hinton, all selected in the 6th round, and we barely saw those players at all this year. What I wouldn't do if I'm the Eagles is overspend on offensive linemen in free agency. Offensive linemen are some of the worst players that you can sign in free agency. A lot of them are scheme dependent, and when they hit the market, you oftentimes have to overpay for those offensive linemen. And I don't want to see Howie Roseman go that route because I think that he can use that financial capital elsewhere. How about this? If the Eagles want to rebuild their offensive line this offseason, there's an affordable move out there that they can easily make, and they can reunite with the familiar face who is fantastic for this Eagles team in 2024 en route to them having the best running attack in the National Football League and this player having a career year. They could trade for Mekhi Becton. The Eagles should look into making this move. Mekhi Becton was miserable with the Chargers this year. He didn't like their offensive line coach. He didn't fit the scheme. He signed a 2-year, $20 million contract, so he would be affordable as far as what his salary would be, what the Eagles would be paying him. And we know that on this Eagles team, he works out. And he can elevate Cam Jurgens if you keep him. He's a great player to put alongside Lane Johnson. And sometimes players just work out with one specific team. And maybe that's the case for Mekhi Becton. That's a player that Howie Roseman should have never let leave the building. Tyler Steen was fine. He's just not Mekhi Becton, who has proven he's a better guard than offensive tackle. The Eagles also have to figure out what they're going to do with their pass rush. I love the development that we saw from Jaelan Hunt. Nolan Smith might not put up gaudy numbers, but he's really important to what the Eagles do. And the Eagles have some big decisions to make here at the pass rusher spot, and this is a position that Howie Roseman is willing to invest in. The Eagles have 8 picks this year, all within the first 5 rounds, so that gives them flexibility if they want to make a trade, or they do have some money allocated that they could use toward a pass rusher this offseason. They could elect to re-sign Jaelan Phillips. Jaelan Phillips has played awesome football under Vic Fangio while with the Miami Dolphins and with the Eagles. He ended up being a game changer for that Eagles defense. From the time that they traded for Jaelan Phillips, Philadelphia was the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL, giving up 2 touchdowns per game, 14.5 points per game. That's stellar. So the Eagles could elect to re-sign Jaelan Phillips. There's also some trade candidates out there. I don't know if Maxx Crosby wants to play for the Las Vegas Raiders any longer. Maxx Crosby has sent out a couple of cryptic tweets. He would be a perfect player for this Eagles scheme, a perfect player for this city. This is a guy who plays with an unbelievable motor. He always empties the tank. He plays with great hustle. He has a great pass rush arsenal. He has been with one of the worst organizations in the National Football League since he came into the NFL. And the Raiders and him got into an argument at the end of the year where Maxx Crosby left the facility. And there's some bad blood brewing between these two parties because Crosby wanted to finish out the year. The Raiders wanted to sit him because of a knee injury that did require surgery. With Maxx Crosby, has had some injury problems over the last couple of years, but what a move that would be for Howie Roseman. Which coach are the Browns going to hire? And depending on that, is that coach going to want to keep Myles Garrett after he set the sack record that was in place since the early 2000s by Michael Strahan? Or will that coach want to trade away Myles Garrett to get multiple picks back so that they can rebuild very quickly? The Eagles have shown some interest in Myles Garrett in the past. Will they again? Last offseason, those rumors were hot. And then in free agency, the Eagles could go after a player like Trey Hendrickson. Getting a little bit older, was injured this past year, but in 2023 and in 2024, he had 17.5 sacks in each of those seasons. No player in the NFL had more. Number 4, the Eagles have to prioritize some of their own players. And there are some contract extension eligible players who are focal points and anchors of this Eagles defense. Jordan Davis is up for a contract extension. He emerged as an all-pro caliber player this year, and he's so important inside the Eagles locker room. And with his personality, with his leadership, I don't think the Eagles are going to let a player like that go. He is under contract for one more year, but he's extension eligible, and you could get him at about 75% of market value if you sign him early compared to late. As far as that market value point, you could get Jalen Carter at a pretty affordable price. Jalen Carter is coming off an injury-plagued season. I'm a little bit worried about the shoulders. They might require off-season attention. But if you sign Jalen Carter now, before he balls out potentially in 2026, if he were to play really well this upcoming season, he could be in demand of $35 to $40 million. You might be able to get him at a more affordable rate right now. Punters are people too. Braden Mann has been one of the best punters for the Eagles in the NFL over the last couple of years. I think it's very important that the Eagles bring him back. All those 3 and outs, he had to punt a lot. Hopefully that's not the case next year. I'd like to see the Eagles sign Reed Blankenship. I don't think he's going to break the bank, and I don't think the safety position is one where you want to overpay. I do think secondary continuity is good to have. And Reed Blankenship, good figure in the locker room too. And this is tough because Jaelan Phillips is one of the best available edge rushers. If he doesn't break the bank, I'd be willing to bring back Jaelan Phillips, although the injury problems and the history is a little bit concerning. Medically retired in college before coming back, and then at the NFL level, he's torn an ACL and Achilles. But we saw the impact that he had on the Eagles defense this season after that trade. What is the future of Nakobe Dean? I actually think the Eagles should let Nakobe Dean walk. It's unfortunate. I really like him as a player. He, too, is great for the Eagles culture, very well respected, but I think it's going to be expensive. He's hurt a lot, and the Eagles have great depth at linebacker. You have Jahan Campbell, you have Jeremiah Trotter Jr. They could come at a fraction of the cost of Nakobe Dean. The Eagles also should look into drafting a cornerback too early and develop some of the young depth on this Eagles roster from the 2025 draft class who, outside of Jahan Campbell and Andrew Makuba, we really didn't see any of these rookies. Mac McWilliams, Ty Robinson, the 3 offensive linemen drafted. Let's see what they can do. The Eagles still have a lot of talent as far as starters, but they don't have a lot of talent as far as depth. That's where drafting and developing becomes really important from a cost-controlled standpoint. As far as that corner, too, will the Eagles draft the corner like Avion Terrell in the first round? His brother, A.J. Terrell, really good corner for the Atlanta Falcons. I think that Avion, who Chip is very familiar with because Chip went to Clemson, could be a great choice for the Eagles. He's very aggressive. He tackles well. He has really good ball skills. And I think that he would be a good scheme fit for Vic Fangio. And then this is a move that I would absolutely love for the Eagles to make. And if you do this, you're not going to draft an Avion Terrell. If you let Dallas Goedert go, trade up for Kenyon Sadiq. He is one of the better tight end prospects that has entered the NFL draft over the last few years. This guy is an exceptional athlete. He's fast. He's physical. He is explosive. I think that he has room to be a really good blocker at the next level, and you can get very creative with how you utilize him. This past year for Oregon, en route to the college football playoff, targeted 71 times, caught 51 passes, 560 yards, 8 touchdowns, 6 drops, a little bit of a concern there, has to shore up the hands. But I think that he could be a better pro than a college player because I think that he could be utilized a lot inside this Eagles offense. You look at the career body of work, really started to come on the last 2 years, but I think he's rounding into form into being an exceptional player, and he's going to test very, very well. That could be your future tight end if you do move on from Dallas Goedert, and this is an Eagles organization that has always put an emphasis on the tight end position. So grade my perfect offseason plan. A, B, C, D, or F. What do you think about it? That's what I want Howie Roseman to do to ace this upcoming offseason.